Hello again. Well, some news coming out of the U.S. now. President Donald Trump reportedly tried to fire the man who is investigating alleged ties between his presidential campaign and Russia. At least 3 insiders claim Trump tried to get rid of special counsel Robert Mueller last June. Well, Trump changed his mind after White House counsel Don McGahn threatened to resign in protest. Let's unpack this now. What does it all mean with our U.S. correspondent Simon Marks? He's here for us at the moment. Simon, good morning.
Hi.
Why is this significant? I mean, we heard yesterday or earlier this week Trump saying yes, he would be willing to testify under oath, and then we see stuff like this coming out that he tried to fire the man in charge of this investigation. Why should it matter?
So this is an absolute bombshell, and it's an absolute bombshell for a whole host of different reasons. First of all, the White House has always consistently and vehemently denied that Donald Trump was ever thinking of trying to fire Robert Mueller. Now we learn an attempt was made last June by President Trump. So irritated was he by the progress that the Mueller investigation was making in terms of digging into ties between President Trump's team during the election campaign and the Russian government. So it's a bombshell on the face of it because he was thinking of firing Robert Mueller, indeed ordered the firing of Robert Mueller. It's a bombshell because it shows White House officials have been consistently lying about the president's intent towards the investigation. And further, it's a bombshell because it suggests that, unlike previous presidencies, the buck does not stop at Donald Trump's desk. He issued an order for Robert Mueller to be fired, and this was, if you like, a stress test of Donald Trump's presidency in its entirety. He issues the order for Robert Mueller to be fired, and the top White House legal official, Don McGahn, the White House legal counsel, says, you know what? If you want to do that, you're on your own. I refuse the order. I will quit if you make me do it. That is an astonishing insight into what is taking place, it's believed, at multiple levels within the Trump White House.
So it just makes you think that, like you say, this is quite telling that there is something to say and there is so much to hide.
Well, look, if you extrapolate this to the North Korea story, if Donald Trump ordered a nuclear attack on North Korea, would the people around him, General John Kelly, the White House Chief of Staff, General James Mattis, the Defense Secretary, say, Mr. President, you can do it if you want to, we're having no part of this? So it shows that there are real stresses and strains within the Trump administration, but it also shows just how far under President Trump's skin Robert Mueller and this inquiry had reached, even by last June.
How close to the truth could we say?
Imagine what the feeling must be now. So many months have passed since that attempt last June, and so much more progress has been made by Robert Mueller.
And just looking back at Trump's attempts to get him removed from the process, and just looking at how he apparently argued that he had 3 conflicts of interest that should stop Mueller heading this, and things about the National Golf Club, the Trump National Golf Club, and involving Trump's son-in-law as well. Just explain that to us.
But the reality, the President Trump, that is when President Trump first began trying to blacken Robert Mueller's name. We talked about this yesterday on the program. The reality is Robert Mueller is a veteran Washington insider. He has worked for Democratic presidents in the past. He has worked for Republican presidents in the past. He is seen by moderates, both Democrats and Republicans, as being straight as a die, as being a highly honorable man, and running an inquiry that so far has proved remarkably leak-proof. Donald Trump is trying to throw these various brickbats in Robert Mueller's direction because he wants this inquiry over. He insists, of course, there's no collusion, there was no obstruction of justice, it's time to wrap this whole thing up. And yet, apparently last June, he concluded that actually perhaps he needed to take more aggressive action than that, fire Robert Mueller, a move that top Republicans in the U.S. Senate, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, a leading Republican voice, has said, if you fire Robert Mueller, it will be the beginning of the end of your presidency.
And very quickly for us, so what now? I mean, you've got all of this surfacing. Who takes charge of this process?
Well,
who does what?
I tell you what, I think we can all expect soon will be a tweet from Donald Trump describing the New York Times as the failing New York Times and insisting that this is all absolutely fake news and totally untrue. The reporting has now been reported additionally, not just by the New York Times, but by other media organizations. What now? The inquiry continues grinding away, and that continues to be a ticking time bomb for the Trump presidency.
Okay, let's wait and see. Every moment is dramatic when it comes to Donald Trump. What will he say next? Thank you very much, Simon Marks.